So, I want to start the speech with a little audience participation. Everyone close their eyes, please. Oh yeah, we have the 5, by the way. I don't know. Yeah, okay. Did you get in there? Yeah. Everyone close their eyes. And raise your hand if you've ever done a drug before. Alright, so I noticed most people raise their hands. So everyone, you can open their eyes. Alright. So, if you didn't raise your hand, you probably were considering Advil, or painkillers, or prescription meds. Point is, there's a lot of drugs in day-to-day use that aren't just cocaine or heroin, but are very useful and are necessary to a lot of stuff we do in society. I don't know where I would be without Advil, to be honest. So, with that, the point of, what you have to look at with drugs is, not every drug is inherently bad. Every drug just needs to be used responsibly, maturely, and at the right time. Obviously, drugs are dangerous if misused, but the point is proper use. So, today I'm going to speak on a drug that I believe has been misinformed, used in media to portray smear campaigns and racially motivated, promote racially motivated messages, and that drug is weed. So a lot of people in this country have a lot of mixed feelings on weed, but if you go back to the history of weed, it's actually pretty surprising. So going back to the 1830s, weed was actually legal and used around the world for a variety of things medically. Weed was actually at the time commonly used as a painkiller because people liked that it could kill pain while not having a body dependence. Also, weed was very popular for decreasing seizures and a few other related things, and there weren't really any other substances that could do that at the time. Now fast forward to the 1900s. About 1910, around the time of the Mexican Revolution, immigration started to uptick at the southern border of the United States. At that time, law officers at the border wanted to stop immigration and basically tell people these people need to not come over, and they didn't know how to do it. So they basically started blatantly lying. Law officers, there are quotes about law officers saying that we gave people superhuman powers, gave them a lust for blood, and basically turned people into murderers. And of course, as a research fact, it was all lies, but it was effective, and it did get a lot of immigration to slow down, and it got us to get more folks on the border. Over the next 20 years, though, weed was then made illegal in 29 states in America. At the time, it was legal in all 50, and then it went to over half illegal. Then in 1936, a movie called Reefer Madness was released. Now, if you watch this movie, you'll think weed is worse than heroin. It's extreme. It's just made to be as bad as possible, and it's also extremely racially motivated. So the movie actually portrays weed as something done by the African American community, and they basically pointed at parents of white kids saying, oh, these bad people will seduce your kids and will get them to smoke this bad drug. And the whole thing was extremely racially motivated. There was no research that backed it, but it's 1936, so people didn't know that. And the very next year, a federal law was passed that criminalized weed throughout the whole country. Over the next couple decades, until about 1960s, weed laws got even more and more worse, sentences were longer, and then in the 1960s, weed started to become popular across college campuses. So at this time, white upper-class college students begin smoking, and law enforcement officers start realizing that it's being used by people they like now, and so they start slowing down on the law enforcement, and from that point to today, we haven't had much change in weed law. So you can see, just from that background, that a lot of the reasons we got here were racially motivated and just downright misinformation. Sorry. So then moving forward, if you look at the research of weed that's coming out today and in recent years, there's a couple important things. First of all, it is far less harmful, and there are far less downsides than alcohol and cigarettes. Second of all, weed has never caused an overdose. It's not possible to die from an overdose of weed. And no research has uncovered any way to do that, unless maybe you just direct injected a bunch, I don't know. But no, there's never been a reported case, according to the USDA. So how do we fix this problem? I think it's important to address it as soon as possible. If you look at today, even though weed usage is estimated to be about the same between white and black people are almost 4 times as likely to be arrested and put in jail for nonviolent weed possession. So I think even today, clearly, it's still being used for very racially, just blatantly racist reasons. But there are ways to fix it. So Senator Cory Booker released legislation last year that he wants to get passed. And in the legislation, it not only legalizes weed nationwide, but it will take funds from states who don't comply or don't want to be a part of it, and it will create a fund to help communities most affected by this war on weed. So a lot of inner cities and a lot of communities that have had a lot of crime associated with weed will have programs open up. It will have job reentry training, community centers, youth education, a lot of programs to help these families and these communities that have been torn apart by simple possession of weed. And obviously at the time it was illegal, but I think when you look at the facts and you look at how harmless it is and the fact that it's somehow legal to die of cancer from cigarettes, but we don't allow weed, I think the right thing to do is to put legislation in that reverses the harm that's been done and gets people back into their day-to-day lives. So another important thing to think about here is what the country would look like if we were to legalize weed. Because obviously everything has got pros and cons, but if you look at states that have legalized weed, it's actually been massive successes so far. So Colorado, for example, raked in about $135 billion of million dollars of tax revenue last year off of weed, off of about $1 billion in sales. So that $135 million has flown directly into schools, into communities, and in a time where we are struggling with budget deficits and we have a growing deficit at the federal level, I think any tax we can get is extremely helpful and something we should do. Furthermore, it creates jobs. Bringing this out of the black market and into the legalized market is going to push drug dealers away. In fact, in almost every state that's legalized, teen usage of weed is the lowest it's been in a decade. Because when you're a teen trying to get weed and everyone else is getting it legally, it's going to be much more difficult because dealers are not going to hang around to just sell to 16-year-olds. So, in conclusion, I think that we need to continue to become educated on weed. I think we need to be careful and not be rash in decision making. But I think at this point, it's pretty clear that if we can have cigarettes and alcohol legal, and we're going to live in a country where we say we're free to make our own decisions, I think you should be free to smoke weed legally. And I think that the benefits from taxes, economics, jobs, the social ramifications, I think it all lines up as something that is worth doing and is worth our time. So I am here to motivate you, so I would hope that we all get out there, we contact our Congress people, we make our voices heard. It is a democracy, so we do have the power to push this through. And even though over half states have legalized, the federal level has not touched it yet. And I think that we need to continue to grow the crowd of people pushing them forward so they will finally make a move. So get out there and make it happen. Any questions? I have a little Q&A session. Anyone have a question? No, it's okay. I don't have to have questions. I'm supposed to offer. Yeah. All right. Everyone good?